Hello, OT friends, and welcome to the Uncommon OT series. I'm Patricia and I'm your host, a Filipino-American, native New Yorker, currently based in Los Angeles, bulldog mama, and an uncommon occupational therapist myself for the past 22 years. On this podcast, you will hear me proudly feature the unique careers of occupational therapy practitioners working in non-traditional and role-emerging practice areas, settings where OT is uncommon. I invite you to receive a dose of OT inspiration, to learn, to think outside of the box, and to be energized and motivated to follow in these unconventional paths. Happy listening! Before we dive into today's episode, I want to highlight and extend a special thanks to TrueLearn and Picmonic, our sponsors. Picmonic is a visual mnemonic learning tool that's been research proven to increase retention and help students ace their exams. It uses audio-visual learning and intelligence-based repetition algorithms that really help with long-term retention while studying. It is an excellent learning resource and study aid for OT and OTA students. Picmonic has built a better way for students to prepare for tests, whether you're studying for classes or getting ready for the NBCOT exam. Try it for yourself and sign up today using the link in the show notes and using the code TRANSITIONSOT to score a discount of 20% off of your Picmonic membership. Happy studying! Welcome back, OT friends. Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest of honor, Consuela Marshall. Consuela is a caregiver coach and consultant and an occupational therapist with 27 years of experience providing care to individuals with disabilities and disorders or have sustained injuries which negatively impacted their level of independence with self-care, mobility, and activities of daily living tasks. She is a graduate of Louisiana State University Medical Center and has worked in skilled nursing units, inpatient rehab units, and in the home care settings. Consuela is also a certified fall prevention specialist, a certified aging in place specialist, and a former board member of the Louisiana Assisted Living Association. So without further ado, to tell us more about her uncommon OT work, I present you Consuela Marshall. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you, Patricia, for having me. I'm great. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to share with us what you do. I'm very excited about hearing about the details of your work. But before we get into all of that, as usual, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe some of your favorite occupation.
Well, I'm Consuela. And, I just love being an occupational therapist. And I thank you for that bio. It really describes my heart, and it is to really serve the elderly community. Yeah, an occupational therapist and a graduate of LSU, like you said. And the great bulk of my career has been in home health. Once I settled in home health, I love it. And for me, I love just being outdoors in nature. So anything that's going to take me out of the house, running. I love to run. I love gardening, and I just like people watching sometimes, just sitting outdoors, maybe listening to music and just watching life go by. I love that. And I just love looking at different personalities. So that's me in a nutshell. And I do have, I do volunteer in the community. I do work with a high school mentorship program and other little volunteer things. I try to just keep busy in the neighborhood, just helping out in the community.
Very nice. Thanks so much for sharing a little bit about you. You and I have the people watching piece in common. I'm from New York, so I love just sitting on a sidewalk cafe and just watching people go by. And in New York City, there isn't a shortage of interesting people to watch. So I actually miss that very much. So thanks again for sharing a little bit about that. Can you now tell us what motivated you to contribute to our podcast? I know I invited you to, to share your journey and to share your path.
Oh, in knowing of your podcast, I've been a fan of it, and just the diversity of the OTs has always made this a very exciting podcast to listen to. So when I got the invitation, I'm like, wow, it's an honor to I have to say yes, because I've always admired what you do, and I think OTs are just so versatile, and the more that people can learn about the roles of occupational therapy, number one, our field can be utilized more fully, that
Yes.
more and more other professionals, even physicians, or just other arenas can value what we do and
Mm-hmm.
invite us into those spaces, because by the nature of
Mm-hmm.
occupational therapy, we can add a lot of value to a great deal of professions and a great deal of lives. And so having the opportunity to just showcase another area that occupational therapists are in and thriving, I was excited to say yes, and so here I am.
Yay! We're very excited that you said yes to.
Yeah.
We haven't had anyone on the podcast really talking about aging in place. And that's just something that you hear a lot about in the OT world.
Yes.
So, yeah, this might be a really good time for us to delve into your uncommon OT work. Would you mind
Okay.
describing that for us and, the
Hey.
folks you serve and, yeah, maybe some of the needs that you address?
Yes. Finding a foothold. That is the name of the company that I started, and it is about helping caregivers and those who they're caring for. So oftentimes, even in our world of occupational therapy, we will hear aging in place, and our minds automatically go to that aging older adult who
Mm-hmm.
desires to stay in their home. And we're very good at helping them to modify their environment so that they can age safely in their
Yes.
homes or whatever setting. But in the context of finding a foothold, I've saw the need to expand that beyond just looking at that aging older adult. That we must also look at the caregiver
Mm-hmm.
and their role in assisting their loved ones, because all caregiving often involves adult children going into the homes of the ones their aging parents, or
Mm-hmm.
often that aging parent moving in with them.
Yeah.
And we must also look through the lens of, how do I protect the caregiver while they're also providing for their loved ones? So aging in
Mm-hmm.
place needs to come from the lens of, how can I keep the caregiver safe in that environment where they are providing care to their loved ones. So aging in
Mm-hmm.
place doesn't mean keep it safe for that aging adult, that older adult. It is keeping it safe for that adult who has to help with the care at the various stages of aging. So we're looking at the son, the daughter,
Mm-hmm.
who's assisting mom or dad with dressing, bathing, toileting, grooming, feeding. Ergonomically, where are they,
Mm-hmm.
and how are they positioning themselves while they're caring for that loved one? And the role of with that is, we want to limit and prevent or minimize some of those injuries that are happening to caregivers
Mm-hmm.
as they are straining themselves, um, and really causing injury to themselves, because being in that place is not allowing them to properly support the care for their loved ones in a safe manner. So that's
Yes.
one part of finding a foothold is
Mm-hmm.
how do we protect the caregiver? How do we allow for them to not, when we think about aging in place, not only just aging in place, just caring in place.
Mm-hmm.
How can they care in place in the most efficient manner that saves them time, prevents injury, and really frees them up so that their life is not all consumed with those tasks,
Yes.
those activities of daily living that can go back to back to back to back because you're doing these series of activities and assisting them every day. And if you're not physically performing those tasks properly, then they're going to take longer. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
go from one task to the other. You're going to see the whole days and halves of days go into doing tasks that really can be concise.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching the use of by teaching the use of equipment, going over proper body mechanics, and really allowing for that environment to be conducive for caregiving that
Yes.
protects the caregiver and as well as protecting the one who is aging in place, the one who is that parent who's aging. So that's one component of what uh, I strive to do as an occupational therapist, and then also adding in some emotional components
Mm-hmm.
with the caregiver on is, and that just comes from my own personal experience that caregiving is not just a physical assisting your parent, your
Mm-hmm.
husband, your wife, when they have physical limitations. That's a big part of it, and it is a big source of struggle and stress for caregivers, but
Mm-hmm.
also that emotional part of assisting them and knowing how to set boundaries, how
Yes.
to listen to your body, how to know when to make shifts in caregiving and having hard conversations with your loved one about caregiving. And that's a component that I had to learn and I value and I see it as an important part of caregiving and as of being an occupational
Mm-hmm.
therapist is that we also have to address the needs, not only physical, but also some of those emotional needs of caregiving that caregivers experience that's often tied to the physical. I mean, it's tied to that physical aspect, but
Mm-hmm.
we really need to speak to some of the other needs as therapists because we can improve some of the physical parts of it if we address some of those emotional things as well.
Well, it sounds like occupational therapists are really, almost naturally suited for this role because we have that lens and we're able to really see and really understand that each of these systems affect each other.
Yes. You know, I don't know about you, but when I was in OT school and we had to do the psych portions of our curriculum, I was tuning out. I'm saying in the back of my mind, I didn't sign up for the mental part of it. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to work with the physical disabilities. I'm not working on I don't want to do groups. I don't want,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that you think of, I thought of when I was in school, like just
Mm-hmm.
do that psych. I'm just going to get through it because I want to get to the disorders. I want to get to the orthopedic things. I want to
Yes.
get to the stroke. And I really in school just discounted the role the psychological plays on the physical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And becoming my mom's caregiver was really the big eye opener for me. And I knew
Mm-hmm.
it. I grew to understand it a little bit more in the actual working as an OT after graduating that, yeah, you have to really pay attention to how they're doing mentally as you're physically treating them. But I
Yes.
didn't understand the dynamics of how deeply it was connected and
Yeah.
webbed together, that they are so intertwined that you have to be addressing both of these things simultaneously sometimes. And I'm glad that occupational therapy curriculums do provide us with just a wealth of information that helps us to really know and address some of those areas on this from a surface level to in some
Mm-hmm.
instances, and teaches us when we need to refer them to deeper, to other people who can deal with those issues. But they need to be addressed in the context of still working through the struggles that are going on in the lives of that aging older adult, and very much so in the lives of family caregivers who
Mm-hmm.
are really going through great struggles and great challenges as they're trying to balance their life and provide for the needs of someone they care for.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that you were a caregiver to your mom. Is that what inspired you to do this type of work?
Yes. And it started for me in before that, but that being her caregiver really helped to really mold how I began to view my role as an occupational therapist. So
Mm.
initially in home health, I would, looking at diagnosis, looking at the patient, really asking what their desires were and what are the goals that they wanted to achieve, and me looking through my assessment of, okay, what are the deficits that I see physically and what are the things that we need to work through to get them as close to their goal achievement. And in SOTs, we know we're looking at them physically, we're looking at the environment, and we're trying to, get them back to as close as their prior level of functioning as they
Mm-hmm.
can. But my limited aspect on how the caregiver plays their role in that rehabilitation process, I didn't really fully embrace it. Yes, I would take questions from the patient, and I'm getting a little feedback from the caregiver, and I'm taking them through a caregiver training and saying, okay, when you're doing transfers, maybe this is an approach you can use. Here are some adaptations. I want to recommend this piece of equipment. But it was
Mm-hmm.
all focused on improving the outcome of that patient, that parent, that
Mm-hmm.
older adult who's got a new diagnosis or have had an injury, and all the focus was on them for the most part,
Yeah.
and training that caregiver into that situation. But it wasn't until me becoming a caregiver for my mom that I really started to change the way I did my evals,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I approach treatment, my treatment approach in caring for and change how I provided the treatments for my patients.
Mm-hmm.
Being an occupational therapist, I knew the physical part of caring for my mom who had multiple strokes.
Okay.
And with each stroke became more disability.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able as a therapist to really know how to work with her in transfers, using a walker, using a
Mm-hmm.
cane, in and out, all of those things that come with stroke rehab, and
Yes.
really working with her on that. But what I didn't fully understand was the impact emotionally, the emotional impact that was happening to me in the
Mm-hmm.
process of caring for my mom. That
Yeah.
it was not only the physical things um, that were problematic to me, it was the emotional strain
Mm-hmm.
of having to, uh, it was the emotional strain that comes with not being able to set limits with my mom, not being able to say, no, I can't do this today. And I drop everything and I was over there and helping with tasks. And
Mm-hmm.
um, in later years, with her coming to live with me and my family, it just became a big problem in my life when I couldn't set the limits with that struggle that I had with saying no,
Yes.
setting boundaries with her, asking for help, and just that my life was just so out of balance that
Mm-hmm.
I've got children who needed me and needed to be involved more in their sports and wanting to be involved more in their sports and their homework and of course, and my husband and all of those things. But I had become so in just emotionally trying to meet every need that my mom had,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was really destroying other areas of my life. So
Got it.
finding a foothold was evolved out of that. That was the light bulb for me. Like, I understand. I had flashbacks of like all of the hundreds of patients that I was seeing and all the
Mm-hmm.
struggles and the looks that I would get from them when I say, maybe you need to think about helping or doing, and then I can see them look like, is she crazy? I'm like,
Yeah.
I can see them saying, I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
I was, and now there was meaning to those faces and those responses that I would often get from a family member, and I misinterpreted at times is, do they really care about that person? But it was like, no, they knew that they couldn't do anymore.
Yes.
It was just not about them.
Mm-hmm.
It was not just about the patient, that they had their lives and they had their balances and they had their limitations in what they could do as a caregiver. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when the light bulb came on for me, is that, what, this is more than about their physical limitations, and getting and providing caregivers with training on how to physically assist them with tasks.
Mm-hmm.
This is about, yes, that is important, but it's
Yes.
also about setting limits and boundaries and setting in place structure
Uh-huh.
that has to be developed by them both. That
Yes.
that one being cared for does not call all of the shots,
Got
and
it.
that there is no one way that has to be things that have to be done. There's not one way.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple ways of getting tasks done,
Yes.
and that the needs of the caregiver is just as important as the one that they're caring for. Having to teach them ways of finding that balance and having those conversations with their loved ones about, we can no longer do it this way, or I'm not the only one who can help with this, and we've got to expand, we have to get more
Mm-hmm.
assistance. And having those conversations is very important in creating an environment for
Yes.
caregiving that works for both the aging adult and the one that is providing the care for
The
them.
care. Got it. Wow. I That's a lot of information you shared, and it resonates, right? For me as an OT, the idea that yes, there is going to be an emotional toll through this experience. And I love that you're really kind of honing in on that and making sure that the services and the offerings that you have are really sensitive to the needs of the folks caring
Mhm.
for for the aging adults, right? And how all of that really became the inspiration to you creating Finding a Foothold.
Mhm.
So can you share with us how, I guess, a little bit about your path, right? So you mentioned working in inpatient units and different kinds of settings, and then starting your own company that really focuses on this and delivering the service in the way that you want to deliver it. So can you describe for us a little bit about how you got there, sort of what
Okay.
the path was like?
Mhm. Okay. So, you know, I've always seen the need for the caregivers to have just more attention given to them in this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
That their lives are impacted in the same way that their loved ones' lives are impacted. Yes,
Uh-huh.
they had the stroke, they had the hip replacements, they have Parkinson's, and yes, their lives are different. Their the parents or the husband, but also knowing that the more attention needs to be paid to the caregiver was my driving force. So I've
Yes.
always known that, and that just became my thing. I'm going to talk to you about what you would like to see changed or improved in your life. But look, once we finish, I'm going to talk to your mom, or I'm going to talk to your daughter. I'm going to talk to your husband, because I've got to get his input too, because this stroke or this Parkinson's diagnosis is not only affecting you, it's affecting them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm letting them know from the beginning that I need to assess their needs as well. And
Right.
so that's been my train of thought. And then seeing the difference in the stories, the difference in the outcomes, the difference in getting them on the same page and seeing more positive results that occur
Mm-hmm.
when from the beginning that patient knows that I value what they think should be their goals.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also from the beginning said I also have to listen to them, because you have limitations. You have stopping points on where you can no longer do things. Someone's
Mm-hmm.
helping you. Where you end, they are adding their life, their energy, their time into helping you to complete things. So I have to value what their opinions are as well. And I have to know what their goals are as well. And when I can go in there from that train of thought, it is probably the first time that that patient, that aging older adult has really thought about it that way. Because up
Mm-hmm.
until now, it's been all about them. They have the stroke. Oh, poor me, pitiful me. They have Parkinson's and they're dealing with all of that. And these are tragic things. And yes, for a season, it does need to be all about them in
Yes.
that acute stage, because we want to get them better. But you can't live in that acute stage. So you have to have transition out of that into what is your new norm in life going
Mm-hmm.
to be. And that requires the assistance of someone. And
Yes.
so with that motivation right there, on the table and everyone knows about it, and seeing the results, it just, the light bulb, it was just resonating with me. I need to do more of this. I need to do more of these things where I can get both of these people in the same room if
Mm-hmm.
possible, but I need to both have them both at the table. So didn't know how to do that, but I've always feel like, can your daughter take off, or can I call? And I'm trying to make those connections. It was during the pandemic when I started to see more caregivers at home,
Mm-hmm.
more caregivers who were not working as those, I don't know what you call them, then those people who had to go to work. They're what they weren't
The
those.
first responders.
Yes, they weren't those first responders or people
Mm-hmm.
that had to go to work.
Yes.
That they were off work, and I start to see more of them at home. And also, I started to get more of a population of people who had removed their loved ones from long-term care facilities and
Yeah.
were bringing them home.
Got it.
And also those who were going into the homes of or not going into the homes of their parents because they were afraid they were going to take the virus to
Yeah.
them. So they weren't going into the home, so they didn't know how much it was impacting their loved ones, and their loved ones were getting weaker and just really not as active because they were just isolated. So I was
Yes.
getting these different scenarios of clients that I had never had before.
Mm-hmm.
And I put into practice those things that I had been doing sporadically as I was able to get them two together in the same room. I was working my little formula with them and I was seeing results. So the COVID gave me the opportunity to see it more happen. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
daughter's off work. Their office,
That's
they've shut down
brilliant.
because no one knows how to deal with this COVID. So daughter doesn't have a job,
Mm-hmm.
and daughter and mom are in the same house. And now there's tension because number one, this is too much. They're
Yeah.
all in the same house at the same time,
Yeah.
and families were just not prepared. And this is where I saw the struggle start to happen, where mom wanted things done her way. I want it done this way. This is my routine. You need to do it this way, and making demands, and daughters feeling obligated to meet all of those demands that were being put on them as caregivers. And it
Ah.
reminded me of those feelings that I had in caring for my mom, that this is what I was going through. And I'm like, "Ah, yes." I said, I know how to handle this, because no one's going to go through what I went through.
Mhm.
I know there's a better way, and there is a loving way, and there is a proven way based on what I've done that can help in this situation, but it's going to take them having knowledge on how to do this. So
Yeah.
that's when I started sort of working my clients. And look, these were still my home health clients that I was trying my method on, and it
Mhm.
was working, till I started thinking, you know what? I like this. If I can do more of this, this is really what I want to do. This is what I'm loving, is when a patient, an aging older adult,
Mhm.
starts to know their limitations and respecting their limitations. And we're setting up the environment so they can be more efficient, being safer,
Yes.
being a lot safer at what they're doing, and giving them a sense of pride of what they can do. And I'm also working with the caregiver on, okay, yes, this is working, but this is not working. And I think she's at the point where going into the bathroom at night, or getting into the bottom of the tub, and really setting those limits and saying, in my professional opinion, this is causing injury. This is this, and this is this, and let's come up with another way, and having those hard conversations about who needs to come in and help, what
Mhm.
equipment needs to be put in place, and really how to tweak what you're doing to still get the same outcome, but going at it in a way that makes sense for both parties. And it was birthed right during COVID, and I have to say I've loved seeing the success of caregivers learning what their roles are, and
Yes.
having them to understand doing more doesn't mean you love them more. Doing less and saying no to certain things doesn't mean you love them less.
Yes.
It just means you're allowing yourself to support your needs, that you're allowing yourself to support the needs of your loved one in a way that allows them to be as efficient as possible, and it allows you to hold on to your life as well.
Yeah.
And understanding that you will never meet every need of the one you care about. You can't.
No.
You cannot provide for all of their needs and not have it be done at a price that you may not be willing to pay. And that is, what are other areas of your life going to look like now
Yes.
and after caregiving, if you put all of your efforts into pleasing and meeting the needs of someone, because you couldn't say no, you couldn't you couldn't set boundaries. It may not be that you have this is a hard no. That no just means to be sometimes not yet,
Mhm. Or later, right?
later.
Yeah.
And let's factor in a plan that's going to allow me to meet that need, or find a way to have that need met
Mhm.
without it causing damage to you physically and mentally and relationally with other aspects of your life.
Yes. Well, spoken like a true OT, really looking at the big picture and how each of those pieces really impact one another,
Mhm.
right? Congratulations for having the drive, for having the inspiration, right? Feeling inspired and identifying that need, and
Yeah.
then moving forward with it, and then creating what you've created, because, it sounds like there's a big gap there that needs to be filled, or there's a gap there that's not being really addressed. And, with the aging population only growing, I can imagine this need to also grow.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it reminds me of that quote that Rosalind Carter says that there are only four kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. And I think that that touches every single one of us.
Yes.
We won't escape the caregiving journey.
No, we won't.
As you mentioned that that population is, you know, that the aging adult population is just
Growing.
increasing, and
Mm-hmm.
more so is this quote going to be lived out into our lives. So it's important that caregivers really embrace the role,
Mm-hmm.
find that role of caregiver, that and define that caregiving role that works for their lives,
Yes.
that allows them to honor their parents by, yes, support your parents, do what it is that you can physically safely do and
Mm-hmm.
emotionally safely do, but you have your limits.
Yes.
And when caregivers can live out that role as a caregiver in a way that is respecting their loved ones and respecting their own lives, those are the ones who end caregiving well, who can say, I've done my best, and they're proud of what they've done, and it's not going to be what anyone else, a duplication of what anybody else does, because all of our lives are different. And as
Mm-hmm.
caregivers, when we can come to the understanding of how is caregiving going to look for me at today, then you live it out today, and knowing that the seasons will change and you have to make those adaptations as the process and as the journey continues.
Mm-hmm. Well, that might be a good time to have you or have you describe for us, like a typical day. What's your typical day like, or what's a typical session like in your
Okay.
day?
Um, you know, as a caregiving coach, I have really honed in on the value of doing the group sessions. Starting out initially doing one-on-ones. They were somewhat successful, but they were very challenging because it was me against a mindset that of someone that may not be willing to change. They may have just wanting that voice. Uh, they wanted a voice to confirm what they were doing, but not really acknowledging that it's just not about validating only your need. It is about looking at the big picture. And I found that very challenging on one-on-one. So
Yes.
in changing my model to group coaching, which is what I primarily focus on, is getting caregivers, even at varying stages of caregiving, in the same space and really speaking to them about, first of all, their lives and about their needs, and then teaching them how to make assessments on what their parents' true needs are, and separating them from wants and customs and habits and things that made them who they were, and what are the things you can keep intact in that
Mm-hmm.
that makes them still feel like themselves. But what are some things that have to change? Because with life and with aging and with diagnoses, things do change.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching them that and really having that in those group settings has really been like the most self-fulfilling for me, is to see the light bulb come on in one, and then someone who's at a different stage said, you know what, she's right, because I didn't even realize it, but since she's saying it, that is exactly what happened in our life and where we're at today, and the way you're trying to do it, you're going to burn out. You know, these
Okay.
group sessions have really been the best transition that I've made in the 2 years in focusing on the group sessions. And those group sessions are called Unlosing You in Caregiving.
Ah.
And it's just designed just for that.
And all of your group dynamics courses in OT school are just
Yes.
taking coming into
Yes.
play.
Yes, they do. When we're look, I am just, taking from information that I gather from a questionnaire and really addressing things that are commonplace. These are typical things with one side weaknesses. These is typical things that happen when you have a wheelchair user, when you have a person that is spending extended time in bed. These are different things that typically happen. And these are some things that you need to put in place. These are some things that you need to consider. These are some whys. These are some common things that happen when these things are not set up properly. And just
Mm-hmm.
going through these different lists of how to keep caregiving safe, aging in place safe, uh, it really crosses across a whole vast
Right.
span of time as far as at what level someone is in providing the care for their loved one. So the group sessions tend to work really well with that. And
How often are your group sessions? Are folks coming in once a week, or is there a curriculum?
they're coming in twice a month. So
Ah,
these are virtual meetings that occur twice a month. And I've moved them around to accommodate the majority of the needs of the people who express interest. Right now, the groups are on Mondays. So group sessions are every Monday and at varying times each Monday. So as people enroll, I will give them a list of the openings. So the groups start at 4:30. So you may be a 4:30 or 6 o'clock or 7:30 session.
mhm.
And so these sessions are on Mondays, and I invite people to come every other Monday. So you can try to stay with your same group,
Group.
and it typically works out really well that way. And so when you say a curriculum, I have a list of topics that I do cover.
Mhm.
And they're a lot of it going through a little bit of what I just mentioned about
Mention.
setting up the home, setting up your time, and a
Mhm.
lot of different things of that nature. But they are also tailored according to the questionnaire. So once I get to know that particular group and they have questions, I tailor the next session to really add on to that. So one topic I may could finish a topic in one setting. One topic may take two settings.
Got it.
Well, it may take three, just depending on they really want to hear more about this particular
Mhm.
topic, because the sessions are about an hour. And the first half of it, I'm sharing with them information that they can use. And the second one, I'm taking questions. So
Got
they
it.
gives you the opportunity to say, look, I hear what you say, but let me tell you about my mama and let me tell you about this. And I'm listening, and other people are chiming in, and I'm like, okay, typically these are things that you may want to consider. And it
Got it.
gives them something concrete that they can go back and try. And then
Mhm.
we get to come back the next session and we add on to that. And sometimes I'll start the session with, look, we're going to go ahead and start with the question because I want to know what y'all did in 2 weeks. And I'm just curious. I
Yes.
want to know what's going on. But we're going to leave time to really talk about some new stuff at the end. So it sort of flip flops and it keeps it very informal. And
Mhm.
the sessions are not recorded.
Okay.
Like, if you don't come to this one, you're going to miss it. But that's the whole point of it. I want
Yeah.
people to feel free to share.
Got
Share what
it.
their struggles are. You can put your face on it, or you can just not even show the video. You don't have to put your name on the screen. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter. I just want you to feel like you have a place to come
Mhm.
and let someone share with you something that can be insightful. And you can hear the struggles that I've had or others have had, and you can say, oh, I thought I was the only one. I
Yes.
thought I was the only one. And really, it's good when you see someone's face when they decide that 2 or 3 months down that they're going to share their face, and they're like, you get to see the video. I'm like, that's how
There
you
you
feel.
are. Yeah.
There you are. And I think that's great. And the group sessions have grown. And
Mhm.
I've added on a new type of coaching service that's going to start in November. So
What is that all about?
up to now, I've been really honing in on the caregiver because that's where my heart was like, I got to get the information to them that, look,
Yes.
there's hope. There's ways things can get better. Things
Mhm.
may not get where you want them, but I think we can take some of the load off of you. And that's
Yes.
been on losing you in caregiving. So starting in November is the group coaching specifically for those aging older adults who are still in their home, or maybe they've moved in with their loved ones, but they are quite independent, or
Okay.
they want to be, but they have their concerns. So this is where that true aging in place is going. Coaching takes place, specifically targeting that aging older adult. So
Okay.
my hope is to draw people in who may be getting the pressure from their adult children that, Mom, you need to leave that house. That's we're afraid of you falling in the house and doing, they're hearing these conversations, or they have these concerns in their mind and in their heart that they know they're struggling. They know it. They may not have mentioned a fall or a near fall, but they're questioning themselves of, what can I do to be in my home? I don't want to leave. I don't want them to say I have to go to assisted living. I don't want anybody coming in and help me. I don't
Yeah.
want to move in. I don't want nobody moving in with me. And I don't want to move in with my kids. Those are the people I'm targeting now.
Got it.
In
Okay.
that, I think there is something that can be done. There is something that we can do to reduce the risk and let them, even from an advantage point of allowing someone, and that psychosocial part about asking for help is not saying that you're less independent, that you're no longer independent. It's just that we're just finding safer ways for you to
Got
stay
it.
in your home.
Okay. So, is there anything else about your services that you talked about your group coaching, you talked about this new group coaching piece that you're going to be.
And look up, the name for that new group coaching is Staying Safe in Your Home. That's the Aging in Place group coaching. So those are the two primary services. But also, it's just as bonuses, I love to just share information with everyone. That's where I utilize my podcast and a
Mhm.
blog. So that podcast and blog, it addresses the struggles that are commonplace with
Mhm.
caregivers.
Got it.
Those questions that can be shared with me through a form that they can find on the podcast website, on my website, and on the podcast show notes. And the podcast is Caregivers Finding a Foothold. If you have a question or concern, they fill out that jot form and shoot it over to me, and I'll address it on a podcast. And that
Ah,
same information gets put in a blog for those who would prefer to have written information that they could utilize to help make that caregiving journey easier.
okay. We'll make sure to include that in our show notes, a link to your podcast.
All right.
So folks can check that out. Now, you mentioned these services and really the services being tailored more to the caregivers, even though you are really working with the whole
Mhm.
family, right? Or the all of the individuals that are involved because they may not be related. Can you share with us a little bit about payments? How do you get paid for your services? How
Mhm.
do you
Mhm.
charge for them?
Mhm.
And any kinds of money matters you might want to just share.
Yes, both group coaching services are priced the same, and it is $49 a month. And for the $49 a month, you get live sessions, 2 live sessions with me, where I share from my expertise information that is going to be tailored at helping to improve the caregiving journey or the aging in place journey. So $49 for that. And that sort of wraps it up. I do on occasion still do the one-on-ones, and they are
Mm-hmm.
often stemmed from individuals who are currently in a group coaching program that
Got
really
it.
wants more one-on-one, where I can share with them even sometimes some specific things that they may want to try,
Mm-hmm.
but not too specific unless you're living in the state of Louisiana, because I'm licensed in the state of Louisiana to function as an occupational therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a group of services that I do locally outside of finding a foothold coaching services.
I see. Got it. And this is all, I guess, just out of pocket
Mhm.
payments, right? They're not
It
covered by
is.
insurance or anything like that.
No.
Okay. Where do you find your clientele?
Yes, referrals for the finding a foothold. Oh, just through a lot of advertisement. I mean, the social media has really been really effective with me in getting referrals. So just
Mm-hmm.
utilizing LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and just really in the podcast just to showcase my skills and knowledge have been a good referral source for just getting clients into the Finding a Foothold program.
Ah, that's wonderful to hear. Do you have any recent successes or recent challenges that you've experienced in your role that you'd like to share?
You know, I can say that I'm very grateful to have been, I'm very grateful to have been asked to be speakers in very different settings. And most recently been invited to be one of the key speakers in an upcoming event. So
Mm-hmm.
that's always exciting for me that someone reaches out to me and say they saw my profile. They would like to, know more about what I do and offer me an opportunity to be one of their guest speakers. So like that part of it is the most exciting part because it really means that I'm getting the message out.
Yes, you're a
And
subject matter expert at this point.
yes, yes. And that's been good for me. And with that, just getting, the word out. I mean, that's really good. So thank you so much. That
Okay.
I guess I'm proud of that.
Oh, you should be. I'm proud of you for that. Now, any lows you'd like to share?
Oh, I mean, yeah, just the whole starting your whole business is
Yeah.
girl, where do you want me to start? It takes work, especially when you're not wanting to quit what you're doing. Because I still
Mm-hmm.
love doing home health OT. I've been doing it in my community for a long time. Have a source of referrals on that part that,
Yeah.
are just routine. They come to me and it's been a very comfortable and exciting career and I don't really want to leave that right now.
Mhm.
So having to do that side and also putting the time and energy into launching your own business, learning all the hats that I have to wear,
Mhm.
very challenging. So
In relation to that, if you can think of any OT skills that are really coming into play as far as setting up your business, is there anything that's coming in really helping you and supporting what you're trying to do?
I just think it's just being confident. And
Okay.
most OTs, you're in this field because you're inspired to help others.
Hmm.
And if you can just always go back to that's your motivation, that helps. I mean, that's the key. Motivating by the fact that what you have is of value to someone else. And I
Yeah.
think as a entrepreneur, if you get the cart before the horse and thinking, oh, I'm doing this because I want to make six figures in 60 days or, all of these things that you see on the social media platforms, then you're going to get really discouraged and really disappointed. For me, that hasn't been my motivation. So I think in you saying as an OT, does it help to be an OT to help you in being an entrepreneur? I say absolutely because it's really the same drive. What's
Hmm.
driving you to want to be an OT? And I do believe that most OTs who are now launching into these uncommon professions, they're
Hmm.
still motivated by that same thing. They're
Yeah.
motivated by the desire to help someone else. And if
Yes.
that is your number one motivation, you're going to do your best to get better at it. Getting the word out, putting in the hours, learning the different platforms, learning the different um, modalities that go with social media. And it's
Hmm.
hard when you I'm looking at things on my phone that I never touched before. I mean, it's just use your phone and send a text and a couple of other little things, but having to branch out beyond all of that and really do these things that if you would have asked me 2 years ago what a DM was, I'm like, a what? Like, what? like, I'm
Look
like,
at you
what?
now.
Yeah. like, I'm like, okay, just DM me. And my husband was like, what did you just say? like, no, Patricia, this is off the thing. But look, there's a commercial that comes on about this guy teaching people how to not be their parents. Like, oh, and the guy said, oh, the guy said he's going to slide into their DM. And I just laugh. And my husband said, what's a DM? I'm like,
He didn't get it.
he didn't get it. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Oh, well, that is such great advice. And, I've also had my share of technical woes. I call them my technical wins and my technical woes
oh,
because,
gosh.
especially with the podcasting stuff, having to learn how to edit my own things, like even learning Zoom, having to teach through Zoom. So I think the pandemic really helped me hone my skills a little bit on that too, or really gave me no choice because that was the way we were
Oh,
interacting at the
girl.
time, right?
Look.
Again, such great tips and advice. Do you have any others that you would like to share, particularly for those OT practitioners who might be interested in following your path?
Yes. Just in general, as OTs, as I mentioned with just the definition of occupation, as an OT, you're not limited in what you can do, how you can utilize your skills to improve the quality of life in so many arenas. So
Yes.
if you have a heart for the aging, for this population of people that are often pushed to the side and marginalized, like they've had their life, they are, they've done their time. It's like, they're supposed to just fade into the background. Um, if that's your heart and you have a desire to really work in that area, there are many fields that I think occupational therapists can develop, many
Mhm.
businesses and many places where your skills will fit. It is
Yes.
like listening to your heart, and oftentimes that heart might be ignited from a struggle you had,
Hmm.
like me, and your personal experience may be pushing you in a certain direction. I would say follow that heart. And as an OT, you've probably figured out a problem that is helping someone who is aging or who
Hmm.
is struggling. And in the context of what you're doing, you're already helping them. So it's like, how can you now turn that into something that you can do through your own business, through your own company? I would say follow that heart, follow that leading. And if it's the geriatric population, I mean, I would say the sky is the limit on what can be done to help
Hmm.
this vastly growing population of people. So
Yes.
follow your heart, do the work, do the groundwork, and start slow. Just going at a place that is comfortable for you, that you can sustain and you can steadily grow, because what you want to do is just really having that firm foundation for what you want to do and really continue to hone those skills where you're at and slowly start launching out and trying things. And for me, I don't still think I'm exactly where I want to be because I still have some other ideas in my head
Hmm.
and a lot that I'm actually have going on in the background right now that I am actually working on, but it's going to tie into the steps that I've already made.
Yeah.
And I'll say, just take the first steps. I just thought maybe because for me, it was going to be one-on-one because I'm doing one-on-one sessions in a sense when I'm going into a home
Home
health
care.
setting,
Hmm.
but it doesn't work that way in this arena, especially
Hmm.
when you're looking at someone through a a screen and doing a virtual thing. For me, knowing when that was no longer the way to pursue, and just having these pivots and keep modifying what you do, and just knowing that with each change and with each thing that you improve upon, that you're probably moving closer and closer to what will probably be that thing that you really like to do.
Yes.
And you look, you're going to come into things that you didn't even know that were going to be a part of what that love is that you want to share. And that's the play. I think that's the good thing about this. You have an ideal of what you think it is, but not until you get out there and start
Mm-hmm.
really seeing for yourself a bigger picture, and you get a bigger learning and knowing and learning things that are going to grow you as a therapist. That, I mean, the sky is the limit, but I think the first thing that you have to do is just making that first step.
Yes, I agree with that 1,000%. Just in terms of, you learn along the way, right? You take these
Mhm.
steps and things aren't going to go exactly as you planned. And you're going to have to make some little pivots.
Mhm.
And so it's the process, right? It's like an important
Oh, yeah.
process, and you have to go through it and then learn through it. And as that's happening, then things get more refined and you
Yeah.
kind of reach your goal a little bit. You're
Yeah.
closer to your goal,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
So thank you so much for your advice. If we were interested in following you and reaching out for a referral or any questions about the work that you do, is it okay if we get in touch? And how do we do so?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Findingafoothold.com is this place to start. From that website, you can see information about me, about my two group coaching options. And those are just subscription based options. There's no long term commitment. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. I mean, they're month to month. You can come from 1 month and say, oh, I got what I needed. I'm like, that's what I needed to hear. Or you may be that one that wants to come again and come again and come again. So that those ongoing subscription services are available there. Then there's also the podcasts and the blog. All the information is there. And also are the links to my social media platforms. So you will see links to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram are the primary ones that I tend to post in. And also there are some TikTok. There's a TikTok
Oh,
account as
TikTok.
well.
Okay. So we'll make sure we list all of your social media handles along with the show notes so that folks can find you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Consuela. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, your inspirations, and most especially your expertise.
Oh,
I learned so much from this episode, and I'm sure our listeners did too. So thank you so much for taking the time.
oh, you're very welcome. I'm very quite honored to be here today, and wonderful opportunity to share.
And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Uncommon OT series. Connect with me at www.transitionsot.com. And don't forget to sign up to be part of the Transitions OT community. By doing so, you'll receive my latest compiled list of uncommon OT practice settings, the latest news on mentoring offerings, uncommon OT live events, non-traditional OT resources, and more. You may also follow me on my social media pages on Instagram and LinkedIn. And if you love this episode, head on over to Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, and Google Podcasts to follow, rate, and leave a review. I also ask you to consider pledging your support to my Passion Podcast project by being a patron on Patreon. It is very much appreciated. Sending big OT love. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.